Hi, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm showing you how I made two stylish outfits, a wrap dress and a matching set with wide leg elastic waistband and a cute tie front shirt. These pieces are super easy to make and I will walk you through the entire process step by step from drafting the patterns to sewing everything together. So let's jump right into it. First, let's start with the wide leg pant. This is a beginner friendly tutorial, but I do recommend starting with a basic foundation pattern. If you're new to drafting pants, I have linked a video on the screen and I will put it in the description box where I show you exactly how to create a pant block. In that video, I already explained how to measure your crotch depth and knee length. For this pant, I'm skipping pockets and keeping things simple. It's just a classic palazzo style pants with an elastic waistband, very comfy and very flowy. I'm using the foundation method to create my pattern. I like to start by drawing guidelines along the edges of my paper to give my pattern structure. Then I mark the full length of the pants. I love my pant long and sweeping the floor, so I went with a length that just so long that it just sweeps everything. Next, I marked my hip length, then draw a line straight across. From there, I measured and marked my crotch depth, and again draw a line across. Now I find my hip circumference divided by 4 and mark that out. Then I measured and marked my crotch width. I connect the hip point to the crotch depth with a smooth curve and finally draw a straight line up from the hip to the waist. Next, I marked a quarter of my waist measurement from the inner seam to the outer seam. Then I raised the waistline by half an inch and connected it from the inner seam to the new waist point. I'm creating a slight slant for better fitting shape. I also marked the midpoint of the waist. This is where I create a slash line so I could expand the waist a bit. I added about 1 inch here for ease and comfort. After adjusting the waist, I connected everything smoothly down to the hip curve and slightly dipping the curve for better fit around the hip. I didn't make any change to the side seam, that's the outer seam. I kept that completely straight. Now for the inner seam, I drew a line from the hip point straight down to the hem of the pant. To find my knee placement, I first marked the midpoint of the crotch, which helps as a guide. Then I measured half of my pant length and add 2 inches. So this is my knee length and I marked that down. I then measured and marked my knee circumference. Again, if you need a deeper explanation of this step, you can check out my foundation pattern video. I ended up adjusting the inner seam just a little bit. I played around with keeping it slightly curved while keeping the outer seam straight, but honestly, with the fabric I used, it didn't really make much of a difference. The final result looks clean, flowy, and even gives a slight split or gather effect. So yeah, it really wouldn't matter depending on the fabric you use. Next, I went ahead to cut out the front pattern paper. I usually use the front pattern as a base to create the back pattern. This just makes everything easy and keeps the measurement consistent. Most of the shaping happens in the front pattern anyway, so the back is pretty straightforward. I placed the front pattern on a fresh sheet of pattern paper and traced around it. While tracing, I made sure to mark the hip point and crotch point because I will need to adjust those areas for the back. Once traced, I expanded the crotch curve by about 1.5 inches, so it depends on what you want. This 1.5 inch gives the back more room and comfort. You can do just 1 inch if you prefer estima fit, but 1.5 inch looks great and relaxed. I also marked the midpoint between the hip and waist, then I drew a line. This is the point where I raise the back waist slightly to give more coverage, and it helps sit better when worn. After finalizing all those adjustments, I cut out the back pattern. So next, I mark the midpoint of the waist all the way down to the bottom hem of the pants, and then drew a straight slash line. I cut along the line and then spread it open to add some volume. This is a really simple trick if you're making a wide leg pant with an elastic waistband, just like a palazzo. You can just do a basic slash and spread like this to get that nice flowy shape. If you have a different method you like using for wide leg pants, please let me know in the comment section and I will try it out. I'm always looking for a really easy method. I spread my pattern open about 2 inches. I would have done more, but you know, I have to rely on my fabric. Now that the pattern is done, it's time to move on to the shirt pattern. Now it's time to create the shirt pattern. I started by folding my pattern paper in half, and I begin with the back piece. I like to use the back piece as a base, especially when drafting the neckline. Okay, for a standard neckline, I went 1 inch down at the neck and 3 inches in at the width. This shirt is going to have kimono sleeve, which makes it beginner friendly. No setting in sleeves, no complicated steps. I carve out the neckline and then mark my desired sleeve length. Keep in mind this isn't the actual sleeve pattern, it's just a placeholder to give the overall shape before attaching or finishing my sleeve. Then I marked the sleeve hole and drew a line from the neck to the sleeve edge. For the shoulder slant, I recommend going down by about 1 to 1.5 inches depending on how relaxed you want the fit. From the slant, I drew a line down to meet the sleeve hole. After that, I marked my waistline. This is important since I will be tying the wrap dress. I also marked my hip measurement just to get a feel for how loose and flowy I want the shirt to be. Since I knew I was going to be adding a belt and wanted a more modest look, I decided to make the wrap part really wide and free, so there's a lot of coverage and it's really comfortable. Next, I just carved the sleeve in to connect the waistline. Then I added a slight A-line flare to the bottom of the shirt just to give it a bit more flow and extra coverage. Next, I traced out the back pattern so I could create the front piece. After tracing, I went ahead and cut out, then open it up to start making the adjustment for the front wrap style. This part is customizable, and honestly I just eyeballed it. I didn't want the neckline coming too close to the edge, so I went in by about 4 to 5 inches. You can decide how deep or wide you want your wrap dress. I just marked the point where I felt comfortable, then connected it from the neckline all the way down to the hem. You can either go with a straight cut or cut the neckline. It's totally up to you and the look you're going for. I decided to go for a straight neckline that runs all the way down. That is it. That's how you draft your wrap dress. It's really easy. I used a lightweight fabric, which I absolutely love. I love the texture of this fabric. It's perfect for summer, super breezy, soft, and just a little bit see-through. I started by cutting out the beige fabric first. Now the fabric wasn't quite enough for a full outfit, so I had to get a little creative. After cutting out the pants, I used the leftover fabric to create a tie front top instead of a full wrap dress. So I improvised, and honestly, it turns out really great. So just watch how I put together the tie front top using the remaining fabric. It's simple, beginner friendly, and a great way to make the most of your fabric. Now, the pant was really easy to sew, especially since I didn't add any pockets. It's really simple. It's a simple design. It's not like a palazzo pant. First, I stitched the front and back crotch seams with the right sides facing each other. After that, I pinned all the seams together to make sure everything lined up nicely. I pinned and sewed the crotch, then stitched the inseam and finally the side seam. Once the main pants were done, I moved on to the waistband. I folded the waist down enough to create a channel that could fit my elastic band. I stitched all the way around, leaving a small opening to insert the waistband. Then I used my teaser pin to guide the elastic through the channel. Stitch the two ends of the elastic together, push it in and then close up the opening with a finer stitch. I also decided to top stitch the waistband to keep everything in place. At first, I wasn't really loving how it looks. Honestly, it came out really a bit zigzaggy. But I gave it another try and then another try. Yeah, the third time was a charm. It wasn't really perfect, but I ended up loving the final look. Lastly, I hemmed the bottom of the pants to finish everything off. Now, the top was honestly the easiest piece to put together. I placed the right side of the fabric facing each other, back and front, and then I pinned the shoulders in place. After that, I also pinned the side seams and stitched everything down. Next, I locked all the rough edges. You can use as a exact stitch. I also finished the sleeve edge so I could just fold them once and then stitch them neatly. I went ahead to lock the hem and then neatly stitch it down. I also finished the sleeve edges so I could just fold them once and stitch them neatly. Next, I used a strip of fabric to finish the neckline. I just placed it around the neck, stitched all the way around, then folded it twice, pinned it in place, and then stitch again for a clean finish. After that, I used more fabric strip to create the tie straps. I carefully positioned the straps, one at the top of the neckline and the other at the waistline, so I can tie it both at the top and the waist for that cutest look. Once the rope were in place, I stitched them to secure everything and also to make sure the center front stays neat and smooth. After this, I went ahead to lock the hem and then neatly stitch it down. So this is basically done for the first outfit. Now for the second outfit. I won't be going over the second pair of pants in detail. It's just exactly the same process as the first one, so if you follow along earlier, you're good to go. Now let's focus on the wrap dress. I won't be going over the second pair of pants in details. It's the exact same process as the first one. So if you followed along earlier, you're good to go. So let's focus on the wrap dress. First, I placed all the pieces with the right side facing each other. Then I pinned and stitched the shoulders and the side seam. On one side, I also needed to attach the tie strap, so I placed the strap right at the waistline, pinned it securely. This strap goes on the inside of the wrap, specifically on the right side that I will be wearing it on. So once I had everything in position, I pinned and stitched the strap into place, making sure it was nice and secure. Next, I cut a few strips of fabric to finish the neckline, just like I did for the tie front top earlier. I pinned the strip all the way around the neckline, stitch it down, turn it over, and then stitch again for that clean folded edge. After the neckline, I moved on to the side front opening. That's the edge of the wrap that overlaps the front. I attached the tie straps to both sides, starting with one side first. I pinned the strap in place at the waistline and then used another fabric strip to cover that side front edge, pinning and stitching it down. I repeated the same thing for the other side of the strap. Attached the second tie strap, covered the edge with a fabric strip and stitched it down neatly. For the inner tie of the wrap dress, the one that secures the inside, I simply place the strap right along the stitch line at the seam, then I pinned and stitched it in place. Next, I move on to the bottom hem of the dress. I gave it a clean fold and stitch it all around to finish off the base. Now it's time to create the sleeves. To get my perfect sleeve length, I actually tried on the wrap dress and measured from where the kimono sleeve starts all the way down to my wrist. I needed a total of 18 inches. I decided to break that into two parts, a 6-inch band at the wrist and 12 inches for the main sleeve that will be attached to the armhole. So I cut fabric accordingly and folded it for both sleeves. The width of the sleeve matches the armhole measurement and the length goes from the kimono drop down to where I want the sleeve to stop. I started by stitching the band piece first. After that, I attached it to the main part of the sleeve, basically combining the two parts. Then I stitched both parts together, carefully matching up the seams that I had previously locked. and now you can see it not looks like a completely long sleeve. Next, I attached the sleeve to the main dress. I just tucked everything inside the armhole, pin it in place and stitch all the way around. After that, I hemmed the sleeve to finish it off, and voila, I have a full sleeve, and I repeated the same process for the other sleeve. I also wanted to add a little detail on the band, so I went ahead to top stitch the band again for this extra detail finish. And that is it. These are the two outfits, the wrap dress and the tie front shirt with the white leg pants. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel.